Q&A session, and everybody was able to ask questions as we go. So tonight, as we go, if you have a question on the topic that we're on, put it into your chat box on the bottom. Gary Jr. is with me, and between him and I, we'll get those answers as we're moving forward. We're going to go no longer than 2 hours tonight, maybe an hour and a half, whatever it takes to get through the sessions I want to go, okay? So thank you. Appreciate that, Walt. Appreciate that, Wally. Thank you, guys, and everybody else for understanding. Yes, our fourth grandchild, and couldn't be happier. They're doing well. Him and Mama's home. Gary's getting some rest finally over the weekend, and kind of things are back in order right now. But we're still busy. Went on a probate presentation yesterday. Went on one today. So we got about 3 or 4 offers we're making this weekend. So this business is going on crazy on fire right now, and we want to get you guys up to it as fast as possible, okay? So a lot of what I'm going to give tonight is background information that I normally don't get to do on a regular webinar that I do, because I'm usually about 90 minutes is a typical webinar, and you can see we had 2 full days from 9 to about 6 o'clock Saturday and from 10 to 5 on Sunday, you know, with a few breaks in there and lunch, but still a lot of information. So you're going to get it all. We're not going to lack on anything. Any questions you have, send here. If we don't get to all of them tonight, then shoot me an email before Thursday's next broadcast, and we'll answer those questions for you to make sure. You all have your manuals. If you got a question, make sure that you email it to GaryD.MrProbate@gmail.com. You'll see that next for my contact information, and we'll be raring to go. So what I explain to my students when they come across with this probate advanced training, that what we're going to go through is we're going to teach you how I earn with probates, okay? Now, there could be some seasoned guys on here tonight, seasoned real estate agents, seasoned investors, and maybe the way I do certain things maybe are a little bit different to you. In the actual mechanics of working a real estate deal and all that, you know, feel free to do things to what you're comfortable with. But what this is to tell you what I've been doing for 25 years and how I have perfected this and upgraded every year, because I still learn as I go, and I keep updating my system. And now with the, you know, with the use of webinars and all this, we're able to keep our students at bay of what's going on. So remember, every month we're going to have a Jumpstart webinar to help new students get going. And then we're going to do a topic webinar every month. You guys are going to get, you know, the next 4 weeks, 2 sessions a week, a lot of information. So write them in your book. So like I told everybody this weekend, you don't leave this session knowing everything there is about probate. You're going to broaden your database, your base, your consciousness on probate. You're going to learn things, and then as you go do them, it's going to be, oh, yeah, that's what Gary said. Or, hey, Gary, I got a question about this. I remember you saying it in the class when I got the situation coming up. Can you help me out on this a little bit, okay? Remember, we have constant contact with our students. You have my email address. You have my phone numbers. You know, here they are again. That's the 278 is my office phone. The 755 is my cell phone, and that's mine, guys. That's not some third party or a hired gun. I'll answer your questions who have maybe never done a probate deal like, you know, I've seen in the past with other systems. This is me. We're 2 guys here. It's my son and myself. We have some support staff, but we do it all. So you should be excited about that, because you're learning all this from a guy that's still doing deals right now. You know, we have 5 double N's going right now in escrow. They're all flips for my investors. Today, in 2014, I'm dealing as an agent almost exclusively buying and selling probates for an investor group, a hand-selected, hand-picked group of investors that deal the way I want them to, so I can give them a lot of properties. Where if you're an investor, and you're going to learn this when we get to getting investors and all this stuff, but there's a certain investor that you want that's going to allow you to do a lot of business, and they're going to love you. And my priority investor today has $7 million. They upped it from 2 because we're getting them a lot of properties, and they're paying me fantastic, and I'll explain that later. So you investors, you can do these flips yourself and make $30,000 to $60,000 on average per property, 6 figures sometimes. You don't need to be a real estate agent to make this work for you, but you're going to learn some fascinating things on how you're going to be paid on properties that you can't buy at your target price. Okay? So, the monthly online training classes are going as part of our ongoing support. This is not what you're doing tonight. You're learning the whole system tonight, which was a live training over the weekend. But on top of this, I will be having these webinars twice a month. You all know that you have the member bulletin board. This is where you go to post your questions while you're learning the system, and you can look at my answer on the thread line. You can look at other students who may answer because they're a little bit more advanced than you. They're doing deals now. You can interact with each other. You can post questions for agents or investors in the area where you work and live, trying to get a network going. This is all free to you, and this is the ongoing support. Probably any question that you're going to come up with as you're learning the system for you that are brand new has probably already been asked because I've archived these since 2000. So use that, and you can email me directly right from there. We have monthly meetups that we do, and what this is I'll talk to people that are looking at probates for the first time, specific topics about it. Usually it's how I earn 5 different ways. We're going to talk probates amongst each other. I normally have, on average, 25 to 30 there. We're doing networking between us. There's investors, there's agents, there's hard money lenders, there's contractors, and this great group is growing. So if you go on to meetup.com, for you that are local, you can put in the Gary D or the Probate Real Estate Club, and you can sign up if you haven't already signed up, because we'll be doing another one of those meetups shortly, and you really want to be a part of it. There's no cost to these. We do it at a restaurant in San Leandro, and we have a lot of fun. Okay? So we're going to talk about, you see in your manual where it says 5 opportunities to earn on probate homes. I earn on 5 different ways when I'm working probates. I want to talk about each of these right now. The first is what we call level 1 wholesale flips. So in your manual, turn to the first page after the 2-day live manual training, and you're going to see level 1 wholesale flip. Every probate that we go after, even though I'm acting as an agent right now, okay, or you investors, this is what you'll do. Every probate that you're going after, you're looking to buy it at your wholesale number, your flip number. And that's how we approach this ourselves. And what we've done is we have made contact. In our conversation, the estate has told us that they want to sell. They're going to sell within the probate, or maybe after, which is called final distribution. Whatever they say is okay. That's either going to be now business for us or future business. And then what we're going to do is come in there. We're going to inspect the property for those that want an offer. We're going to work our numbers. There's a way I do this that you will see this when I go do the session in coming weeks on how to present our offer. And we're going to purchase that. We're going to close it. We're going to rehab it. We're going to resell it. Or maybe we're just going to wholesale it. You investors on here that just want to wholesale. I had investors and agents here this weekend that just want to be a bird dog. All they want to do is learn how to find the properties, talk to the estate, find out that they want to do something, and they're going to refer it to an agent or to an investor, and they're going to get themselves a bird dog fee. Okay? So you can approach this any way you want. But what I'm going to teach you is how I do it. So now the average profit for us when we do these flips, to be a VIP investor of mine, is my investors are in agreement that if they can net 10% on the out-of-pocket costs that they paid, and that includes everything, the purchase, the closing, the rehab, the holding costs, the resale costs, if they could net 10% profit when it's all said and done, this is roughly a 60 to 90-day ordeal, then they'll do that deal. And this is key, and I'm telling you, this will make you so much money if you're an investor looking for partners or you're a real estate agent looking for investors to represent. Because in today's world, a lot of these guys that are buying property are borrowing money. They're using transactional funding. This is all costly. These people want big returns on their money to do this, especially if it's a risky deal. And they're going to have to net 15, 20% or more. Had a guy today that needed to make 30% on every deal. Well, that guy's not going to do too many deals here in the Bay Area. I mean, they'll come up once in a while. But I'm talking about cranking out 2, 3, 4 deals a month, okay? If your investors will work on 10%, you're going to do great, especially if you find investors from out of area. Go to the lesser areas. My number one investor is from the Central Valley, and they work on a 10% spread. They buy and sell probate, or they buy and sell probates with me here in the Bay Area, but they buy trustee sales in the Central Valley. They do 5 to 8 of those a month. They got deep pockets, but they're working on a 7 to 10% spread, lower numbers, 15 to 20 grand profit. Sometimes I've seen them at 10 grand profit. They've done the deal because it all adds up at the end of the year. Okay? Just post your questions, Walt. We'll get to them. So if you pick out an investor from an out of area where they're used to making smaller profits, even though they're making maybe 15% on their money, but the 10% we're going to make them here on the bigger numbers is going to equate what they're averaging per deal, they're going to love you. And what's going to happen in reality is you're going to make them much more than 10% on their deals, most of them. But the reason I do this is I want to make sure if I have a skinny deal, I can still do it at 10%. And that's my priority investor, and that's how you become. And today you have to be all cash in order to do this. I don't deal with financing and loans and all this. We come from a position of strength. So if you took a 250 purchase we found and a rehab was 50, and with everything, let's say he was in that property for 300 grand with closing costs, with holding costs, had to pay taxes and insurance or whatever, then if I made that investor 30 grand on that profit, that includes my fees going in and going out. I'm paid 6% going in and 2% going out. So your real estate agents, that should thrill you. And your investors, that's a good wholesale number to work with. You might have to roll that back a little bit because if we're not flipping it, that number is short. But I tell you, don't wholesale to flippers, wholesale to hold investors who are happy to buy a property at 85 cents on the dollar, 80 to 85, because they're going to keep it. And with the rent so high here in our areas, in the Bay Area, that's a great deal for them, and you're still going to make your fees, okay? So what we do, if we can't receive our price and that net 10% on my level 1, is we're going to move this to what we call our level 2 opportunity with probates. So for you investors, we're going to teach you how to wholesale that deal for what makes sense, and you're going to earn a 5 or 10 or whatever that equity position is that you couldn't do. It's probably not going to be much more than around $30,000 to $40,000. It could be a $500,000 total property when you're finished, but the net's only 25 or 30. You may not want to risk that kind of money for that small of a profit. My guys will want 50 grand. So what you do is you wholesale that out to a hold investor or to a real estate agent that may have a buyer that will buy that property. And if you're licensed, you can get a referral fee out of that. If you're not licensed, then you need to either work a marketing agreement or, better yet, get yourself a license, just hang it for the referral fees, because in my area here in the Bay Area, we have 150 properties that come across my desk every month that are brand new probate files that have been scrubbed that have real estate in them. So 150 shots a month, and we're looking to do 2 to 3 of those. Okay, so you can see there's plenty of opportunity here. So what if you're an investor and you get 3 shots at the bat, 3 swings this month to try to buy your properties? You got 1, but what do? You walk away from the other 2? Well, in your business right now, I guarantee you, if you can't buy that REO, that short sale, or that trustee sale, you're outbid, you're done. And all your prep work and time you spent trying to chase that property is now unfruitful, and you're moving on to the next property and trying to hit a payday. Well, probate, it's different the way I teach it. If we can't do that flip, as an investor, we're going to show you how to wholesale that to a hold buyer, a hold investor. Basically, guys that own real estate in that particular subdivision where the subject property is, and we're going to contact them and say, look, you own one over on 4th Street. I'm working on one on 3rd. Or would you be interested in picking up another rental in that area? And you put together the deal, and you get yourself a little wholesale fee to sign that over to that. Better yet, if you're an agent, you're going to be able to represent that guy. All right? Okay? Okay. Gary, why would you not be able to wholesale these myself? Well, I do wholesale, but I call my wholesale 6%. Okay? So on a $300,000 house, I'm making $18,000. And then when they rehab it or resell it at 4 1/4, I'm making another $9,000. So I'm making $27,000 on that flip. That was a little tight, and maybe there was a $50,000 profit there or whatever, 40, 50 grand. I don't need the wholesale. I just do it as a agent where my agent had, and I double end it to my investors, to hold investors, or to retail buyers. Okay? All right? Why would I include other investors? Okay, back from 87 to 2000, all I did was buy and sell myself. Okay, I had a partner. We bought, we sold. I had to project manage the operation. I had to worry about my investors' money as my partner. It was just a hat I don't want to wear, 26 years later at 64 years of age. I am having a blast right now, just worrying about the first leg of the deal and going from there. So, okay, so I hope that it makes sense to you. The money really doesn't change too much, whatever you call it, a 6% fee, a wholesale, or whatever. Okay? Hard money's there. Hard money can work for you. I'm not telling you not to use hard money. It's just you have to factor in those costs, and that may make a 10% deal net profit too skinny when you factor in the cost for your hard money. Okay? All right? So if you're dealing with investors all cash, you're in a much better position strength-wise going in because you're showing you're all cash. And number two, you don't have any banks, appraisals, or anything like that to deal with. Okay? That's why we do it. Okay? All right. So you agents out here, we're going to teach you in level 2 that you couldn't put your investors, your 4 or 5 investors that you really only need 2 or 3 with cash that work on 10%. I have about 5 that I work with. Of course, we're covering 5 counties. You may only work 1. But you can't get that property at the right target price that your client needs, even for a 10% profit on that. But you're able to find that hold investor that will take the property and you get your fee out of it. Or, as we're working each probate, as you will see in coming sessions, we are constantly looking for retail buyers for our properties because we're assuming that during our due diligence, when we come back to get our true number, that it's not going to happen. Now, you're going to learn that 85% number is our key number going in, but it's not the number that we want at the end of our due diligence if we're going to flip it, right? We're going to have to be closer to 70 to 75. But the 85 is going to give you more opportunities, and I know that if I can't get my number, I'm going to be able to sell it to a hold investor at 85 or a retail buyer at 85 plus my fee, even up to 90, 95 plus my fee, and I've made everybody happy. Because remember, I want you to remember this, when I'm dealing with an estate, my first order of business is to find out what they want, what their needs are. I give them all the options that are available. And where I'm going to go with it, maybe this is not a wholesale retail flip deal because they don't have much equity to begin with, or they need every dollar to go to the, whatever they're doing with the family, okay? This is not a stress situation financially, usually with the probate, unless it's short sale, but it's an emotional. So you're going to learn to deal with the emotional distress, but it's not a financial distress. So if I can't do my flip, then I talk double end to them. And I tell them, and you're going to learn what I do, that I'm going to bring them an offer that's going to pay them the money that they want to get out of this deal because we can't make the investment deal work. And I'm not going to charge you any commission. Doesn't that sound good to you, to be able to talk that way to an estate where everybody else that might be calling in is talking, I'll do it for 4, 4.5, 5, whatever, to try to get the deal? Or your investors are saying, you know, I'm going to pay you X amount of dollars to get it, and then they really can't do that. So what we're telling them is what I've done here is over 25, 26 years of doing this, I've taken every objection that has ever come up, and I roll it into my presentation in the way I operate. So I pretty much cover it all just in conversations on questions that haven't even come up yet, but I know it will. So I'm addressing it now. And then when I go back and say, remember when I told you this? Yeah, well, that's what I meant right now. This is why we can't give you the number, because now during our due diligence, this came up at the house, it needs a sewer lateral, you got a foundation crack, 20,000 repair, this, that, whatever. And that eases us into where we want to take them, because I don't care if I flip it, double-end it, list it, or whatever. I just want to earn off of that, and I want to make everybody happy in the deal so I get letters of recommendation, which will help me for future deals. Okay? So I'm going to teach you investors on here how to set up a network of agents. Now, if you're in the Bay Area, you got the best of everything because you have me. I'm in 5 counties: Alameda, Contra Costa, San Francisco, San Mateo, Santa Clara, soon Sonoma, and Marin. You find properties out there when you first start because it's going to be all new to you. You're not going to know what you do. You get to call Gary, and Gary goes with you on the deal. And I either act as your agent on the deal, or your partner on the deal, or just as your consultant on the deal. You'll learn how those work later on. It's your deal. Even if you're an agent, we can go do that deal together. You're the listing agent. I'm going to show you how to do it. Or you're the selling agent, and I'm going to show you how to do it. I'm going to actually work it for you. And it typically takes an average probate investor that makes this work, or agent, 3 to 5 deals before they can stand on their own. That's the reason I do all this, folks. This is why I sell my course. Do you think $197 is going to really make a difference in our life right now on one course sale? It really doesn't. That was all done in, when we started selling the course back in '92. My wife was working in that. It brought her home, and she was able to stay home and run that business. That's all that's ever done for us, okay? But the deals come to me. I do many more deals for my students than I could go out and find for myself. So that's why I do this, is because I know, like right now, from this weekend, I set 3 appointments for deals. Going in and buying or working the whole system, because I network with these people and they want to do deals. All right? So you're going to learn how to do that at this point, and we're going to show the investors how to set up these agents. So on these deals, you do 3 out of 10, you get 3 out of 10 responses, you swing the bat, you might do 1 deal out of it. But what are you going to do with the other 8 or 9 that said they do want to sell, but they can't sell the way you want to buy? Well, like I said, normally you'd be moving on. You're wasting time. Now, I'm going to show you how to earn from those, either in commissions if you get licensed, or in perks if you're not, that the agents are going to give you. Because I tell you right now, if you're giving an agent anywhere from 5, 6 to 10 leads a month where the estate wants to sell, and they know what they're doing with probate, they're going to do anything you want. Sell your properties for free, do whatever MLS comps you need, whatever, because you're as good as gold to them. You're giving them all these leads. So for you that are not in my backyard in these 5 counties, go after your agency who's interested in probate and send them to one of the webinars I do, or send them to a meetup, or send them to our training center so they can get the probate course and be your agent. Or you train them to be your agent so they're tied to you, okay? So, like I said, level 1 deals really produce profits between 15 to 20%. Every once in a while, it will only be a 10% deal, but that's what our premise is, 10%, and we'll move forward, okay? Now, how many of these can you do? Now, this is realistic. This is straight shooter information, regardless of what you've probably heard online or on TV or whatever. If you do this correctly, you should be able to do a flip a quarter every year, 4 of these a year. And if you're making on the small end, 30 grand, to more like 40, 50 grand on average, you're going to do very well in this. That's 6 figures for you investors if you just did 4 a year. In reality, you can do more, but that's what I've always taught from day one, because that's what I know, that years in and year out, I'll always average about 4. Well, this year, I mean, we have 4 or 5 right now going, and I probably closed 3 or 4. This is one of the better years. We're probably going to push 9 to 10 flips this year, okay? That's not a realistic goal every year. Can it happen? It could. Now, keep in mind, we've opened the 5 counties where for most of the 25, 26 years, I've been in just Alameda County. So that's why we're moving a little bit more now, more opportunities. But if you're working one county of average size, you should be able to do 1 a quarter, okay? All right, so, and that potentially is going to pay anywhere from 60 to 120 grand a year added to whatever you're doing right now. So let's go to the next page. And you all should be on the manual page, level 2 opportunity. What do we do if we can't receive our target price on the flip? Okay? So like I said, do we walk away like you're doing now? No way. We don't walk away. Level 2, we're going to show you how to double-end it as an agent, double-ended sale, or wholesale it out to a whole investor like I told you. Now, some of this I've talked about, so we'll kind of get through this. Agents. Now, during the due diligence, now keep in mind, we're in our offer, all right? We got a number that the estate agreed to move forward with us. Now we're going to have 2 weeks, roughly 15 to 17 days. You could say 15 working days and get actually 21 days, but on average we're using 15 days. And that's our due diligence time that we're going to do all our inspections, just like you would normally do in a regular deal. We're buying that property as is, but we are not buying it blind. And if there's any problems whatsoever, we're going to change our offer at the end of our due diligence when we go to remove our inspection contingencies, and that is our right to renegotiate for any reason. And we're going to come by and give them the number that we really can do. But what we really use the due diligence time frame for, or just as important as, you know, due diligence for clarification of the condition, I use that 2-week time to find another buyer for the property, regardless if you're an investor or an agent. Because I am assuming as I go into this contract, and remember, I'm given a higher price than I probably really want to pay for this for a flip, but it is a price I can put a whole investor in and a low price for a retail buyer. I know I could even come up if I need to. So I'm looking for those people, so in case we don't work this out for the business that I need, for the right number that I need for my client and I, then I'm going to move this at the end of the 2 weeks and bring in the other offer, the other buyer. It's going to be, you know, us or a signee, and we'll sign it right to the other buyer if it's the same terms. If it's new terms, I bring in a whole new contract. And what you will learn when we get to presenting the offers, all the estate cares, am I going to get the same amount of money that I agreed to, that I finally agreed to? And when we tell them, yes, you are, it doesn't matter who the party is. They don't care, as long as it's closing. If we tell them, no, we can't because of this, 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 and that, you're going to learn how we do this, and that's going to show them why that number doesn't work. And we always end with, would you buy this if you were buying it, knowing these facts now with the numbers that we've showed you that your neighborhood is doing? And they really can't say they would, because we know they would be lying. Okay? So are we going to walk away if we don't get that 70 cents on the dollar? No, we're not. We're going to find them an 85 or better offer and put the deal together and close it, and we're going to get paid. I still work on a 6%. The whole investor has to pay me 6. So if 85 is the magic number, then he's going to have to pay 91 to get it. Or I may have to get the estate to massage a couple points to 82, 83 to make it work. Or I may have to come down on the 6, and because it's not going to work no matter what, the deal is going to blow, then I'll do that for 4% just to make it work. And then with the retail buyer, we'll show you how I could take that up to 95% and add my 6 and still make it work. I've sold them at 106% before. In my area, properties are at a premium. The market has slowed a little bit. It's still a buyer's market. It's still a seller's market out here, but it has slowed a little bit. But there's still multiple offers on good properties if they're priced right. So if an investor, a client's coming, a buyer that's going to, what we call an end-user buyer that's going to move into the property, and he's been beat up on the MLS, and you agents notice that you're offer after offer after offer, you're getting beat out. You're an FHA guy or a VA or a 10% conventional, you're getting beat out by cash offers or just stronger offers, multiple bids, pushing the price up. Buyers are tired of that. They've been beat up in the last couple of years. So when you show them that you're the only buyer and you're an FHA, great. Do you need closing costs with that purchase? And they say yes. Just think about that in today's climate, agents, investors. If you walked in on an offer presentation with multiple offers and you had an FHA buyer, which means there could be appraisal issues, and they needed $10,000 in closing costs, do you think you would even have a chance to buy that property? You won't. But we do it all the time because it's one-on-one. Now, I want to step back a little bit because some of you may have questions. You know, why would the estate do that and all this stuff? Remember, this is not a distressed financial, distressed situation. It's emotional. And once we address that, we teach you how, and the position we come from on these deals when we lead into them is a position from compassion. They understand what we do. They know this is a business, and we're going to have to get a certain number to make this work. But if it don't, we show them the option that they're going to have, and we'll try to make it work for them. So we're not pulling the wool over anybody's eyes. That's how I stayed out of trouble for the last 25-plus years, is because everybody knows what's going on, number-wise, okay? But this is a business. If I can buy that business at one price that's going to allow us to flip and we're going to make a profit, my client's going to be happy with me, and I'm going to get a listing on the way out, and I'm making a total of 8, and they're making their, and the estate is happy with the number we gave them knowing that they're leaving some money on the table, but that's not important to them right now. What's important is getting this over with and getting their life back together. That's what's going to make the difference. So that's how this all works there, okay? So with the level 2, you're going to have to know what price the estate wants. You're going to have to find it, and we're going to show you how we talk in net dollars only. Investors, you're going to learn how your network agent can find a buyer for you, all right? We have the right to inspection during our due diligence, agents, so we're going to know everything about this, agents and investors, everything about the property. So when we have this end-user buyer ready to go, like I said, landlord, a retail buyer, could even be a wholesale buyer, we're ready to roll at the end of the 2 weeks. Now, we run ads all the time on all the properties, but you have to know how to run the right ads because you can't show it as that it's a listing of yours because usually it's not. I don't even want listings. That's part of my niche if it takes me there, level 3, which we'll talk about. But I really don't want to be there. I just want to double end the deal, put buyer and seller together, get it done, and get paid and moved on. But we run ads, so we keep a buyer's bank. And by doing this, we have buyers that want certain properties in all counties. This could be wholesalers, investors, and retail buyers. Our number 1 priority in this situation is our retail buyer. We already have our investors for the flips, but we're getting a buyer's list for properties, that we can't get our target price, and we're going to have to go with a whole price or an investor's price, okay? So we run the ads, which you'll learn, okay? I'm just giving you an overview right now. We're going to be digging into each of these as we go. So don't worry, and don't worry if you don't understand everything I'm saying right now. Just let it kind of absorb and you know, get what's inside you, and you'll be fine at the end. When we write offers, usually our headings will say estate wants offer. We don't put coming soon or whatever because you really can't. If you're an agent, you're going to get in trouble with that. A lot of times the estates don't even know we're running these ads. And yes, you can do that because we're not running the property address. And the way we talk to the estates that you're going to learn in the contacting the estate section, we get their permission to bring them an offer. And that gives us our green light to do what we do. And you'll learn that later on. Okay? All right. So, now, you can do, and I'm being conservative here, you can do 6 of these a year, double enders, or investors, wholesale, and which means that you couldn't make your magic number, but for a $5 or $10 fee, you're just going to wholesale it out to maybe your own end user buyer that you found, or your network agent found, and you still made your money, and you're going to get paid on the deal, or agent. Same thing with you, that you brought a buyer into this. So we have, like I said, 5 or 6 going on right now from the last 2 months. But I talk conservatively, and that's how I like to keep it. Because I don't know your work ethic. I don't know, I don't know how serious you're going to take this. I'm looking for doers. I mean, there's no sense to spend the next 16 hours going through all this stuff over the next month if you're not really going to do this stuff, okay? I mean, it's a waste of not only the money that you spent to be on here and maybe bought the course, but why are you doing this? I mean, you got to make it happen. And I tell all my students, and this is like anything else, 90% of my students aren't doing this 6 months later because they can't pay the price to their first deal. And that's all I ask them to do when they come aboard. Stay with this to your first closing. I don't care if it's a wholesale, it's a flip, it's a double-end sale, a listing, whatever. Stay with it, and once you close that deal and you're paid for this probate on a deal you found off the MLS that nobody else really even knew about, and you tell me that this niche, you don't like this business, then I will accept that fact and say, well, good luck. I hope you find it where you're going. Okay? But what happens is people want a quick fix. That's us Americans, got to have it now. It took me almost 2 years for my first probate deal. You need to understand that. And I had no mentor working with me. I was doing everything trial and error. I had an attorney I worked with, but he knew less about probate than I did. I had a real estate investor that I ran everything by him, concepts, whatever. And, you know, he just loved the concepts. I'll introduce his name later on, but he wrote a whole chapter in 2 of his best-selling real estate books on me and what I do, because he was privileged to that over a 2-year, 3-year period on seeing every file that I was doing and the ones we were losing, and finally we connected on one and we made a $60,000 profit, and that's when I was a principal, and I also made a $15,000 commission on the deal. So there was a $75,000 profit in almost 2 years on the first deal. And even if that takes 2 years to do, if you made $75,000 every 2 years, that is not a bad investment. There's businesses that don't make the owners $75,000 a year, and they work 40 hours a week with. So put this all in context. So when you call me up, say, Gary, I've been calling. I've called 150 leads. You know, I've probably made 500 calls, spoke to 150 people, and I haven't done one deal. You know, it's 4 months later, I'm quitting this, it doesn't work. Okay? Then you know what I'm going to be thinking when, in my mind, I won't tell you that, but you're going to know it. I'm going to say, well, I'm here 25, 26 years later, knocking down 6 figures plus with this every year. Why would I still be here if it didn't work? So, you know, if you bought a business and put 50, 100, 150 grand into it, 300 grand, whatever it takes for businesses today, would you leave if it wasn't making money right away? And most businesses don't make money the first couple of years. My son just got in the business, and it was almost $1 million to establish this business for him and his partners. And they're not going to realize a profit, salaries or whatever for a while, probably a couple of years. But the payoff is unbelievable down the road. So why is this any different, this business where you can make 6 figures? So please, put this in context. And then when you're upset because you're having trouble understanding something in the coming weeks, or, you know, I had a call once from a student, I won't say his name, but he called me all upset he was going to quit because he could not find the courthouse in the city where he lived, in that county where the Superior Courthouse was. Can you imagine that? He was that upset, driving around. I guess he hated driving to begin with. And was going to quit the business because he couldn't find, he hadn't even done anything yet. And just because he couldn't find the courthouse, what that told me was he's probably going to have a tough time doing probates if you can't even find the probate court. And I explained how to do that. in Superior Court in the county where you live. And then you ask the probate clerk's office where the file's kept. And we'll do that when we get into that, all right? Anyway, okay, so 6 deals a year, that could be worth, if you're double ending a $300,000 house, that's 18 grand a deal. You figure it out. It's 6 figures if you're doing 6 of those a year. Of course, a lot of you may be on splits or whatever, but still, company I'm with, I cap out at 16 grand. Doesn't take too many of these 18 grand deals, and then another 2% going out to cap out, right? And then I'm on 100%. So you got to decide if it's good enough for you to stick with it no matter how long it takes. Because it's not a matter if it works. It's a matter of will you work it to that point where it works for you. Okay? So what happens on this level 2 opportunity? Now, as an investor, what I show you to do is you're just going to wholesale it to somebody. It could be an end user buyer or whatever, just like you wholesale now, or your network agent that you're dealing with. That could be me. Excuse me, if you're in my area. And you're going to earn a wholesale fee for referring that deal to me that I go in and knock out for you. Okay? So rather than walking away from that deal you couldn't buy and make that 30 or 40 or whatever you thought you were going to make, you handed off that deal and you made 5 grand. That's not too shabby in my book. And what if you did that, 2 or 3 times a month? That's a great income. That's what's possible with probate real estate when you work all these angles like I do. Okay? So level 2, that's all we're doing. We've taken level 1, we exhausted it. It ain't going to happen. We set up for level 2. And again, when I write the offer and present it, you're going to see this a little bit more clearly. But just keep in mind that there is options on the earn on each property we do before we're going to walk away from it. And normally we don't walk away from most of them. If we're on it, we're usually going to get it. Now, do we get everything? No, we don't. Other agents get there before us, or investors, or we just couldn't get the number. We didn't have a buyer for it, and I couldn't get the listing. It happens. I don't care because I know I'm doing between 25 to 35 of these a year, no matter what, no matter how many no's or how many fall apart. As long as I do what I have to do week in, week out, I have the system that I have to do, and I do it religiously. And if something comes up that I can't do it that day, I'll fit it in the next day. It gets done every week. And because of that, we're having one of our best years this year, 2014. All right, so what happens? We can't find a buyer, can't find a wholesale, no hold investor, nothing. Are we walking away? No, we're not. What we're doing now, you're in your book now, okay, manual. Most of what we're doing is in the manual. These slides are just to kind of give you a direction, the topic that we're on. So we're going to go to a level 3. So what happens is, and cut to the chase, is we're going to pitch for the listing and take that property to the MLS to get it sold because we've exhausted everything that we tried to do. We couldn't buy it at the right number to flip. We couldn't find an end-user buyer for a retail offer or a wholesale buyer to keep it as a rental. So what's left? Well, the way we train you is you're building a rapport all through this with the estate. It's like all sales. It's not about how good a salesman you are. It's about how a good people person you are, how people like you, how they warm up to you, how they trust you. That's what makes the difference here like anything else. So hopefully, as we're training you, you're learning all through this process from level 1, from that first phone call to the estate, all the way through until it connects to a deal. You're building a rapport with them, a friendship with them. You're listening to them, what's important to them, and you're showing them that you're a probate pro, either an investor who has an agent pro if they need it, or you're an agent standalone who knows everything there is about probates. And we have flyers that we give out to show how to interview a probate agent, which are ideal. And they compare what agents should know, what we know, what we've done with it. And then when they ask because all agents will say, yeah, I've done probates, I'm good at it. Most of them don't know the first the first thing about how to do a probate the way we do it. They're only citing maybe what they know from the old probate law, and we'll get into that in a moment as well. I want to say this a lot. I'll get into this, I'll get into that, because you got a lot of study chapters we're going through over the course of the next, 8 sessions. So I might refer to some of that and come back just for a preview. So don't let it trip you out, okay? All right, so level 3 basically is we're taking a listing. They're confident enough in us, and I prepared them enough that the estate attorney may be asking them to list with their agent that they're comfortable with, and who may be a very good agent, but they're not necessarily the best agent for the estate. And because we build this rapport with them, and before it gets to that point, we have a good chance of being the agent instead of the one the attorney wants, if it is going to be listed, because of the fact we took the time and the attorney's agent probably hasn't even met these people yet. They just get called when the attorney says, go list the house, okay? And then the attorney usually dictates what to do, and thousands of dollars could be left on the table if it's not handled the correct way. So all we're doing is learning how to build that rapport and pitch for the listing at the end, okay? So you're going to have to build this rapport and then pitch for the listing. And you're going to, as an investor, you'll refer to your network agent, and you're going to receive perks to give them the lead for them to go list that property. And that perk could be they're doing all your comps with MLS comps, the best comps there are, that you don't have privilege to unless you're an MLS board member. They're going to do your CMAs for you. They're going to write your offers on the car probate contract if you're in California. Yeah, all that stuff they'll do for free for you. And then maybe when you're doing your flips or your buys, they're going to work on a fraction of a commission, maybe a point only, because you're giving them 25 leads a year and they're getting 10, 15 deals from that, okay? All right? You're going to learn how you could use no commission, discount commissions, and fix-up programs to bring you more deals. That doesn't mean you're going to be a discount broker. That doesn't mean that your agents in your office are going to call that you're like those help you sell guys or whatever. I know some of those people that made millions of dollars during the heyday. All right? And to me, all that matters is how much money you made at the end of the year, not how you did it. But you can use this concept to get you more face-to-face with the estates because you're pushing buttons that most other people aren't. You'll learn all that, okay? Okay, if you're an agent, you can also refer the deals that come up. You may not want to list in San Francisco because you're working out of San Leandro. So you'll learn to build these network agent groups from diamond farming students and refer that over to the San Francisco guy closest to it and get yourself a 25% referral. So even on the properties that may not make sense that you're going to list, you can do it and still get paid on the deal. And most of these leads that come across every month will not end up as a deal for you. It may be a deal for somebody else down the road. About 50% will sell sometime during the probate, 7 months on average, or after final distribution when it's out of probate. I'm just talking about the deals that you do. So you can also be referring listings to other areas, because sometimes people will bring up, well, you're a 510 area code. My house is in San Francisco. I'm 415. I'm afraid buyers won't be calling you because of that. You're not the expert. I'm not sure I want to do this. So what I do is I have an 888 number on my for sale sign that forwards all the calls to my cell phone. So my sign could be anywhere. My sign could be in New York, and I could be the local guy there, okay? Now, of course, we don't practice in these states, but that's just a concept I'm telling you. It could be in San Diego, and I could do a deal, a listing, and have my sign there, and the buyer calling off the sign won't know that I'm in San Diego or not. And then I have a network agent who will go over there and show it, and then I work the deal with him, wherever it's going to be, him or her. Okay? All right, so what can you do income-wise? Level 3, I keep it conservative again, but you should be able to go back to the old one listing a quarter. Should be available to you if you're consistent, if you're doing the right things and not giving up. Okay? And you're going to learn what that means, what you need to do to be consistent all through the course of this 8-session series is 4-week series. Okay? So that's level 3. Now, level 4, turn the page, you go to the next page. Level 4 is what we call court confirmation sales. This is the old school approach to selling real estate out of an estate in California that has been for many, many, many years. And it wasn't until 1987 that the Independent Administration of Estates Act, which you'll learn about, changed the probate scenery to make it easier to sell a property, and that's the reason I got into probate real estate in '87. And most people didn't even know about this until 2000. That's why I did so many deals in those 13 years, basically without any competition here in my area, which was Alameda County, and basically 4 cities in Alameda County. And I kind of had to pick the litter, okay? So, but the original process of buying a home in probate was what we called court confirmation process. And again, I want you to understand, when I get into the what is probate session, I'm going to go into a little bit more the mechanics of probate and give you a little bit more background so you'll have it, okay? So level 4, we're just teaching you how to go to court with your offer that is accepted by the estate, and that could be an agent, it could be the attorney. That offer is accepted, and it's going to be put on the court calendar that takes 6 to 8 weeks. In order to have your offer accepted, you have to put a 10% deposit up. You're going to have to wait 6 to 8 weeks for that sale to be confirmed in court by a probate referee, probate court judge. You have to buy as is, and then whatever the court appraisal is on that home, you have to pay a minimum of 90%. So that was the problem that most investors stayed away from probates, because how do you do a good flip when you're trying to buy 70 cents on the dollar when you have to pay 90 cents on the dollar for that probate? It just didn't make sense. And a lot of buyers wouldn't go there either because they couldn't put up 10%. They were an FHA or VA buyer. Maybe their total money out of pocket to buy was $5 or $6 grand, and they were going to need closing costs help, and they're trying to buy a $300,000 house. How do they put up 30 grand? Doesn't happen. So the old law handcuffed the estate and cost about 70% of the buyers that would buy those starter homes to go the long way, and only investors looking at them. So it really hurt the family. So level 4, we teach you. I do a whole session on this, and I teach you how, if you have to go to court, how to do it the right way. If you're going to be a bidder at court, if you're an investor bidding for yourself, or if you're an agent representing a buyer, how to do it the correct way so you don't lose your buyer's 10% deposit. Because in court, once they confirm the sale, you're done. There's no contingencies for anything. No appraisals, no loans, no inspections, nothing. If you're approved in court on the overbid and you don't close, that 10% is gone. Okay? Now, the offer going to court to start the overbid does have the due diligence that they can go through. And if they don't like the property at the price offered, they can renegotiate. But eventually, they'll have their terms set, and then those terms are going to go to court. And then an overbid. We're going to teach you everything on the overbid, what the formulas are, how to do it. So if you ever get in that situation, you can do it. Investors, you can find property at the courthouse. There has to be a certain amount of red flags pop up for us to take a look at that. Or as an agent, you're representing a buyer, and there's a probate in a community that they want to live. It's the only one. You know about it. You want to go get that for them, and you're going to have to overbid. Well, you have to know what you're doing. We're going to teach you on that. So that's level 4. Level 5 is where we farm probates. Now keep in mind, 150 come across my desk every month. We're doing 2 to 3 deals a month. You know, other people are doing deals as well. Probably half of those are selling each month. There's a lot of deals going on out there. Very few people are actually getting to that stage. Most people tracking probates are getting from the letter stage to phone call stage, maybe even meeting the executor and seeing the home, and that's about where they end. Because they don't know how to negotiate, get their deal, how to keep it out of court, how to control the estate attorney, how to get that sucker closed, and how to do the things that if you can't get your magic number, you're still going to earn on it. That's where we pride ourselves that most other systems don't teach you. They teach you how to get to the file, how to get the information, how to call the estate, but not really how to make that all happen. And then our ongoing training helps cement that home for you guys. So you pick the right course. Now, I'm not blowing my own horn on this. I'm just telling you, you've picked the right course and person to learn this from, because I don't know of anybody that is making their living generating the amount of deals that I do that are teaching probate real estate. I know a few that are knocking down a lot of probates, okay, some friends of mine, but they're not teaching how to do this. So I don't know the other teachers out there. I always tell people when they ask me, what's the difference between your course and this course and that one? And I say, well, I don't know their courses. All I know is I've been around 25 years. I've done over 450 of them. I make my living doing this. That would be my first question I would ask anybody else. How many you've done? How long you've been doing this? Do you make your living from that? Okay? And that's kind of going to give you a good idea of what's going on. And then what's the support after we spend this money with your program? Is it an 800 number? I'm going to talk to a guy. Well, how many probates has he done, or she, or whatever? So I've been through all that, folks, and I'm telling you. Okay, just buyer beware. So anyway, so that's level 5. It's basically we're just going to teach you how to farm. There's a lot of these homes that won't sell during the probate 7 months. It's average time frame, but they're going to sell afterwards. And we farm them just like you real estate agents would farm a tract of homes, 500 homes like you were taught. And what your goal is to get 20% of the business out of that subdivision each year, and that could make you a nice living. And you do that by branding yourself, your face, your name, your company with the neighborhood, and getting them to know you as a real estate guy, giving them all that free little stuff, the magnets, the newsletter, the flowers, the hearts on Valentine's Day. That's farming. What we do is, instead of farming 500 homes and you don't know if 300 of them are never going to move, we farm 500 probate homes and better, of all people that have just inherited a home and through probate, most of them sitting on free money, and their life was on hold while they were going through that process, so they didn't want to deal with one other thing of selling the property and what are they going to do after that fact, so they just held off. And they thought they were going to rent it to their cousin, or they thought they would just be a landlord and get into the landlord business and put a tenant in there, start their real estate career. Whatever reason, it always comes to a head once they get to the reality stage of the cousin skipping a month's rent because they're hurting that month, but you're family, so you'll understand, or the at-large tenant tearing up the property and then not paying the rent, or whatever, or they just get an itch in their pocket for that 400 grand that's sitting there. They don't like the real estate business. Let's just do this and we'll go buy that house of our dreams or whatever. You might be dealing with 4 or 5 heirs and maybe 2 of them want their money. And so that's what happens. So if you're steady staying in front of these people that told you they were going to sell, but not till after the probate, and you know that it takes about 7 months, then we do a mailing campaign, and we're going to show you in the later sessions those flyers that we use and all this stuff, and you'll be able to jump on that yourself and pick up some deals after that fact. Okay? All right, so what I want to talk about real quick is, if you go to the next page, it's Orange Avenue, Castro Valley. This is a flip that we did last year. I did for my investor, and this was a great deal that took me a year to materialize. So I just stayed with them. And they didn't go through probate. They were just sitting on it, not doing anything. And I kept in contact with the guy, because when we're dealing with these probates, 70% of the time we get the phone number for the personal rep, the guy that's going to be, or the woman who's going to be the executor or the administrator. So we're able to call them. Okay, so I kept in contact with him. Then about a year and a half later, he came to my office and said, Gary, you've been sticking with me. I'm ready to go. Let's do this. So we went in there, and I actually did a retail, because after sitting down and finding their wants and their needs, they decided they wanted a retail deal, best they could. Property was kind of rough shape, but he wanted to get as much as he could. This will come up. So I did that, and I put one of my VIP buyers that I marketed for into the property at $275. And when we did all our inspections during the due diligence, The reports came back outrageous, about $75,000 worth of work. The buyer wanted them all done because she was buying FHA. She had to get them done, had to show a clear test because the appraiser said that. So we decided, you know, it's not to the best interest of the estate to get into this because if there's that much work showing, once they open up floors and wall and look at joists and all this, there's probably going to be more. The estate agreed. The buyer agreed and decided it was a single gal. She would decide to buy a house that was already done. She didn't want to do the fixer. So, and that house was probably worth at the time, if it was fixed up, maybe $350. So she was getting a little bit of a buy, but not great. So anyway, to make a long story short, the estate was ready because I showed them in reports, and they saw the buyer walk away. So I said, what do you want to do? I have a fix-up program. You want to fix it up, maximize the money, or you just want to dump this and I'll bring it all cash in like I told you originally? He goes, yeah, let's do the all cash. I want to be done with it. So I brought my investor in. We bought it for $225. They put about $75 grand into the place. And as you can see, they resold it, you know, a number of months, 3 or 4 months later for $420. And they made $119,000 on this, and that was a 39% return on their money. And I made about a little over $17,000 in and out on the deal, on a small, you know, $250,000 to $300,000 house. Not too shabby, right? Everybody worked out. So this investor is one of my investors, one of my handful of guys that will do a deal with 10%. Well, look what he made on this one, 39%. So do you think they worry about the deals that come by that might only be 10%? They don't. And he's currently, you know, we're at 3 deals just with them alone. So, okay? I wanted to show you that. What I do in the next page, you're going to see the actual closing statement on this deal. And it shows you, this was a seller side, and a $225,000 sale, and what they netted, okay, when it was all said and done. I'm sorry, this was the buyer side, the first one. The buyer got into it for about $227,000, okay, when it was all said and done. All right. The estate actually, in this case, paid my commission, so my buyer didn't have to. The next page if you go to is the orange listing when it was all rehabbed, and you see that we put it on the market for $399. We got some fake appreciation that came into right when we were doing with the rehab, and it pushed the value way up. So we had $399, and we ended up getting $420 for this property. Fantastic. Okay. And then if you go to the next page, you'll see the my seller's closing statement at $420, and you can see what the cash check was for them. It was $399,593 that they put in their pocket, and you'll see that my commission was $8,400 there. I got a commission going in from the seller. So like I said, I told them I cut back for them because the price came down. Instead of getting $12,000 I should have, I took $8,500, something like that. So anyway, go to the next page, Shoreline Drive. We bought this one in 2013. Into it for $313, resold it for $452. A little longer because the rehab was a little longer. We lost a couple sales on it because they had some problems with the rehab. But eventually, we sold it. Gross profit on that was $112,000, and they made a net profit was $87 plus with a 28% return. Okay, 39.28, and these are guys that have agreed to do deals at 10 with me. Okay, all right. These are long-term guys with me. They've been with me for years, and so they know the routine right now. Now, Shoreline, you see, this was when we closed it. You see the $17,400 commission we got coming in, okay? That was on the purchase. Because I have no commissions in my offers to the estate. And the way I handle commissions is when we get ready to close, I put my commission demand in as part of the buyer's closing costs, all right? So we never talk commissions with the estate or the attorney or whatever. That's really where you want to be because that'll just muddy up the waters. I've had attorneys look at the executive and say, you really want to pay, you know, that commission. And in that case, it might have been a 5.5%. and they just get irked. It's okay for them to make more than that on the deals, but a guy that puts the deal together, you know, and not all of them are this way, but it comes up. So I just took it off the table. So my buyers, if you're buying all cash, you can do this. If you're buying financing, then you have to change the contract and inflate the price to carry that. And then it would be on the seller side, but they're not paying for it because you inflated the price, okay? This is to give you a little background. And then you'll see the Shoreline next page. This is when I listed it, put it back up on the market for $449.9. It sold in like 7 days, actually 3 days, for $450 all cash, okay? And there is the closing statement on the next page coming out of the deal, $450 all cash, and there we go. All right? Real deals, folks, not pie in the skies. Then we did a deal, next page, Manchester, San Alejandro. This was last year as well. Into it for $284 with everything. We resold it for $405. It was a few months later on this one because we lost 3 deals because the investor did some shortcuts on the work I tell them not to do, and it came back to haunt them, so we lost 2 or 3 deals. They ended up doing what I told them to do in the first place, had to do some foundation work. But anyway, the bottom line was net profit on that was $70,000. They made 21% on that money. Again, better than 10, so I hope you're noting this. And my commission in that was almost $24,000, okay, on that one deal. And on the next page is the Manchester, is the closing statement on this, okay? Now, I share this with you guys, okay? I share this stuff with you. You're my students, but I really don't want this stuff anywhere else, okay? I don't want to see it on the net or, you know, people contacting my clients or stuff like that. I mean, I hate to have to say stuff like that, but I share everything with my students. And because of that total honestness and sharing, I just respect the same courtesy back. Just keep this stuff to yourself, okay? So that was the closing statement coming out for the buyer on Manchester. You can see the $265 price, okay? You can see the commission there was $15,000, okay? And their total price in was $284. Then here's the listing when I sold it, $399,950, and the sold price was $405. And then my client's closing statement going out. You can see I got another $8,100. Credentials sold it. They got $10,000, and my guy still made a hefty return on this property, paying that much in commission. They still made a 21% return. Not too shabby, huh? Now, do you think numbers like this will cement investors with you? But are they expecting 21, 39 all the time? They're not. What are they expecting? They're expecting 10% because that's how I set it up with them. And they're willing to do this. These deals are like them doing 5 deals in the Central Valley, every one of these. Each one of these is like doing 5 over there, what they're used to. So if you get the right investors, you'll keep them happy. The greedy guys are just going to cause you nothing. They're going to beat your commission down, and they're going to want more. They're going to spend all your time trying to get deals together. You're going to get frustrated and just want to be done with it and out of probate, and it's the worst thing you could do because this is the golden goose, I'm telling you. You could do 6 deals a year and make 6 figures here, just as an agent, double ending. Or an investor, 4 deals a year and add 6 figures or whatever else you're doing. Not a bad retirement program. I actually have a better one for agents, but that comes later. Okay, next property. Just a level 3 transaction I had to do. This is in Redwood City. To not get it out of the court system, which you're going to learn how we do that. How to go through court confirmation. So I was able to get the listing. I double-ended it myself for $950,000. I had to work the commission down a little bit, so I ended up, you know, it was going to be about $21,000, but I was going to get commission on the way out. We have to go to overbid on this. It's coming up. If I get it, then I'm going to have to make it really well because I'm going to get the listing out of this. This will be about a 1.5 house when it's done, and that'll be, you know, another $30,000 there. So even on the low side, this is about a $50,000. We'll probably end up closer to $60,000. And the investor's going to make probably $300,000 on this house, $200,000 to $300,000 on this when they're done. So it also gave me an attorney relationship. I've been with this attorney. We've been on this for a year and a half. He's now doing deals for me and my students on pro pers, and we need an attorney. We worked out a deal. Okay? So I control this. I got the listing. It's in the board. Hopefully my guy will get it at the end. If not, no worries. We move on. Here's a copy of the listing so you can see it's in there right now. Okay? All right? Okay, go another page or two. And then Santa Clara, you should be at the Santa Clara Hayward property. This is a property I did, which was a level 3. And I went in there. The guy told me he had a $300,000 offer. He don't think I could do better. We told him we could. We brought him an offer for $315. My buyer was paying the commission. Reports came in, and then the buyer decided, now it needs too much work. We're going to let it go. I told them they were crazy. That they let it go, and those folks spent another year trying to buy a property and eventually stayed in the apartment they were in because they were so burnt out. And really what they were doing, they were kicking themselves for letting this property go. Because what happened was, because we didn't get our price, I made a friend with the executor. They gave me the listing. I listed it at $315. I actually sold, we had, I think, 17 offers. We sold it for ourselves for $350. So I double-ended it. And I was able to negotiate a $20,000 reduction when all the inspections came out because there was that much work involved. And the state agreed. They still got 30 grand more, less some commission, and they got more money than they were going to get with the other one, and we double-ended the deal. Okay? And I got a letter of recommendation, and I got it in with an attorney after it was all done. Next page, if you go to, is my student bulletin board, which hopefully you've all been to. You've seen it. Use it. Post your questions. Read them. It's going to answer most questions you have. Anything that's not there, to list it. And if you have a private message from me, you can private message me there. Or just send it to my Gary D, Mr. Probate. I answer these. I answer your emails. You usually get them back a day, no more than 2 days after you send them to me. Okay? It's about the system. I request an email. If you're in a deal and have some hot buttons being pushed and you need answers, then you call me on my cell phone, and I'll be happy to assist you, answer your question, whatever it takes. Okay? Okay, question. I get it. You're creating a connection with money just being a byproduct of the transaction. That's great. Yeah. What I'm actually doing is just putting this unit together. Now, we're going to control most of the Bay Area on probates. I got top-notch guys being trained who know what they're doing because they've trained under me, and they're not quitting. They're moving forward. We got the right money investors. We got the attorneys that will help us when we need it, and we're going after everything right now. There's plenty on the table. So, okay? But that still may equate to, you know, if we were able to do 5 to 6 deals a month with the group, still not many when there's 150 coming across the desk and 75 are selling. Okay? All right? So put that in context. All right? Okay, and then your last page again is all my contact information, Gary D. Probate at Gmail, Gary D. Mr. Probate at gmail.com. My phone number, general questions, is a 278. That's my home office phone. And then my direct line cell phone is there for you guys. Okay? So great. Now I actually finished the first session, the intro that we did. I went, of course, a little longer than I wanted to. But we're going to get into now to what is probate real estate. Now, if anybody needs a break, if you need a little bathroom break or get a cup of coffee or whatever, just write it on the bottom, send me a message, and we'll give a 5-minute break and then come back. Does anybody want a 5-minute break? Just write it in there. Or if I don't see anything, then we're going to go. Okay, 5-minute break. I'm showing about 7:15, 7:17. We'll come back at 7, let's call it 7:25. And we're going to get through what is probate. And I'm going to give you a little background on probate, how it works, the myths, the players, stuff like that that'll add to your database. This will be the last session we do. I'm going to try to get you done by 8 o'clock. All right?
98.1. Today's Old School. Oh,
Okay, we're back. I hope everybody's ready to go. So we're going to start. Somebody punch in there that you can hear me okay, that we're all right. Yes, okay, good. You hear me, Walt, okay? So we're all good? All right. So, what we're going to do, I want you to turn to the, we're in the session 1, says, what is probate real estate? Turn to the next page, and there's a definition here. I'm going to kind of jump around on these, because these are just for your, to keep in your file. If you guys want to read these, give a little bit more basis of what's going on here. But basically, what I want to emphasize on is just what's going to help you do business, okay? Not a lot of the red tape stuff that you'll probably never come in involved with. So basically, the probate is a legal process of transferring the property, which is our focus in probate real estate, upon a person's death. Now, although probate laws have changed over time, the purpose has remained much the same. The deceased's intention as to the transfer of their real estate property at the time of their death, and typically it's in a will. Now, we'll have a will. We'll have files that do not have a will. Some of them will be a trust. Now, a trust doesn't have to go to probate, but a lot of trusts show up from time to time because they left something out, or something, one of the assets was not delivered correctly to the trust. Now, if you don't know about trusts and a living trust, I would highly recommend that you all pursue this. It has never been as cheap now to get a living trust, as it has been the last 15 years. You can get them done fairly cheap, several $100s. And this is just such a better way to go. So when the time comes, your assets will flow to your, to the trustee of your estate, to the rightful heirs, without having to do anything in this crazy world called probate. Because probate just puts your life on hold. It freezes up your money, your assets. I've seen people in pretty bad positions having to sell their estates for 50 cents on the dollar to corporations that will buy it because they need the money now. And besides all that, it's public information, so the public can know everything about you and your family's financial situation. So if you go with a living trust, you bypass all that. Most people don't want to do that because you're spending money for something that's not going to really take effect until you're dead. So people don't like to spend the money, but, I say don't think about yourself and think about your family. And even for medical purposes, it can really help out because, you may not even be able to make a decision for a family member that becomes incapacitated if you don't have the right to, and trust could spell all that stuff out. So look at that. So anyway, our focus is we teach our agents and investors to learn the California probate system, and that's because there's 2 ways to go. Then once you know this process, and if you're out of the state of California, like some of you are on here tonight, it's a very simple process just to adjust to your area because you have learned the strictest process in the country, and now you're just going to throw out the things that you don't need to do and zero in. Some states out there have no process. You just have to know who the executor is going to be of the will and contact them. You can buy the property like a regular sale. Okay, so your state's going to be equal to maybe or most likely less than California. So that's why we teach the California system and then tell you that are out of state or you want to work out of state with probates to just adjust. You'll know what to check for, okay? We have students nationwide. Just about every state in the country has students of diamond farming there from over the years. We're in Canada, the UK, and France. So this stuff works no matter where you're at. But like anything worthwhile, you may have to dig in a little bit. Californians, you have to learn the system for California. Well, that's what we're teaching here. And then you just have to apply it. Out of California, learn the California system and adjust to your state by understanding your state's process. And what you're doing is investing in yourself and in your business so you can start generating these nice big fees that are there everywhere, folks. I'm telling you. Okay? All right. So next page. What is probate? Another definition. Probate is when the court supervises the processes that transfer legal title of property from a estate of the person who has died, who's called a decedent, to his or her beneficiaries. Okay, it's another way of saying what we just said about probate. Okay, and basically that's all we got to worry about. Does all property go through probate? Real estate out here in my area, if you have a value of $150,000 or less on your real estate, then you don't have to go through probate with it. It's called the small value procedure, and it's basically just some filing of some documents and you're done, and the spouse will get it or the family or whatever. If it's over $150,000, and you have to go through probate. Other areas I've seen $100,000. I've even seen areas that was $50,000. So check your area so you see. So if you're dealing with a state that pops up and it's $150,000 or I say $145,000 value, small 2-bedroom house, and they're in probate, you don't have to go through probate. You can buy it, have your attorney or find out the estate attorney to file the correct paperwork and be done with that. In and out. Okay? All right, let's go to the next page. Do living trusts go through probate? They kind of talked about that. No, they don't. But again, you'll see them come through because something in the assets wasn't delivered properly to the trust. Okay? How much does probate cost? Probate cost, it's expensive. And the cost pertains, there's other things, but the biggest cost is to the estate attorney. And they're gonna have fees that will range between 4 to 7%. And how that fee on value is set is on the first $100,000 of value, it's 4% to the attorney. On the second $100,000, it's 3%. So on the first $200,000, that's $7,000. On the next $600,000, it's 2%. So that'll take you up to $800,000 of value. Okay, so there's another 2% of $600,000. So you can see this adds up as the values are more money if you're in probate. Now, if you're in trust, you wouldn't have had those fees because your trust was already set up in advance. Maybe you paid $1,000 for your living trust, but look at the difference. On the $800,000 value, that's $20,000 in attorney fees right there, and there's other charges that apply. So another reason for a living trust. Okay. How long does probate take? I address this is about 7 months on average. They can go longer. I'm working on one right now that's been about 2.5 years, and I worked on one that was 10 years. Okay? But on average, it's going to be 7 months. But we're not waiting 7 months on the properties that we can get out of the probate system by using the law of 1987, the Independent Administrations Act. You can close these in 35 days. And if you're all cash, you can't close these in 5, 10, or 15 days because there's a process we have to go through that you will learn called a notice of proposed action that takes 20 days. So we typically write our offers for 30 to 35 days so we can do our due diligence and then get through the 20 days. Okay? Again, this is an overview. Okay? Let's go a couple pages. 2, 3, 4. And it's going to say, what does the personal representative do? Okay? Make sure you're all there. If you're not, just put a message on the bottom that you're lost. I'm sorry there wasn't page numbers on these, but we were adding things up to the last moment. Okay, can you guys hear me okay? Because I was getting some music through my earpiece here. Wally, can you hear me all right? I think we're okay. We're good to go. Somebody say you can hear me? Okay, good. Okay, so what does a personal rep do? So at the beginning of the probate, regardless if you're going through the independent administrations, which you're going to learn all about, or the court confirmation process, the person of the deceased named in the will to handle all this is called the PR, the personal rep, at the beginning. And if there's no will, they're still called the personal rep, but that's going to be an administrator when they go through the court petition for the right to service the estate. So the personal rep has a shopping list of things that they have to do. It is basically, it's horrendous. Now they are paid a fee. They can actually collect as much as the attorney collects. It's statutory fees, but very rarely do they take it. This is just from my experience at over 450 probates. is because there's usually other heirs, or if there's a single heir, they don't need to pay themselves because they're getting everything anyway. And if there's multiple heirs, somebody may not like the fact that they're getting a little bit more, even though you're doing the work. You know, just to keep things kosher with everybody, it looks like they're just waiving those fees. But they are there if they need them. So the personal rep is the person that we're going to talk to at the beginning. Now, they don't have the authority yet to sell the house and close it because they aren't on title yet, right? If Joe Smith passed away and his son John Smith was the executor or the administrator and was going to sell the real estate, how does he sign the grant deed for his father when it's time to close, because he's not anywhere on the grant deed? Your title company won't accept it. They won't insure it. So the authority that the personal rep receives, regardless if they're going through court confirmation or not, is called letters of testamentary or letters of administration if it's an administrator. And again, overview, we'll be actually going through those forms in later sessions, okay? But that's how they get the authority to sign. That's one of the 3 documents that the title company will want to close out your deal, okay? So the point here is they got a ton of things to do, and sometimes the PR doesn't want to talk about selling the property because they got so many other things they're doing, gathering insurance assets, HUDA stocks and bonds and cars and jewelry and, you know, a house full of items they got to get rid of. It's a mess and all the legal paperwork. So you'll run across most of the time they're going to tell you, well, we do want to sell, but we're not going to sell until we get done with probate. Okay, well, that tells us that's future business, and we market them that way. Okay, PRs cannot sign the house yet, so why would you talk to them about selling the house if they're not the executor or the administrator yet? So the reason you do that is to control the deal, because you can actually write in your offer that they accept that this is subject to them being approved by the court to be the executor or to be the administrator. And if they sign that document, they have just tied up the property with you. And the only way that contract is not legal or it could be broke is if they are not approved to be the executor or the administrator. And I've bought many of them this way. And I've actually saved deals, because what you're going to find out in the probate world, once you find a gem and you're trying to put a deal together, then the family members start hearing about what's going on, and the attorney, you know, and their everyday dealings, and people are going to come out of the woodwork that want to buy the house. Well, if you're going to sell it for that price, I'll take it. That's what you're going to hear. Things like that. Or, you know, through the attorney's office, investors are tipped off, or whatever. So by getting your contract signed, our first focus is what we want is to have our contract signed. We really don't care what price. You know, somewhere as close to our working number as possible. We just want the control, then we deal with it later. And everybody else has to wait for us if we want the property or not. You'll learn more about this when we get into writing offers and presenting the offer, okay? So the point is, the PR's got a lot on their plate, okay? Let's go and let's advance 1, 2, 3, and let's go to the page that says on the top, probate process players. Now, is anybody not there? I'll wait for you. Just type in there that you're not there. Okay, looks like we're all good. All right, so in the probate process, I want to identify the players that you're going to come involved with, that you're going to be dealing with, okay? All right? Oops. Okay, Wally, are you there? About 3 pages up from where we were. Okay, you're there now. Great. All right, so the probate process has different people that you're going to deal with that you just want to know. And do you need to know who they are? Is there a test before you do a deal? No, there isn't. But as you do more deals, you're going to start learning who these players are. They're going to come to you, and this is just going to, you know, automatically embed in you as you go. But now you have a reference to just look at and kind of get this database going, right? So the first person, the most important, is the personal rep. That's who the deceased asks in his will to handle things. Now, if there's no will, then it's either going to be a family member or friend that they're going to appoint as the administrator. The family will be in agreement to be the personal rep, to be the administrator in this case, because there's no will, to handle all this stuff. And then the third party that could do that is a fiduciary that acts as an administrator and as a court-appointed administrator. That could be a third party, or the family wants a third-party court administrator to do it, then that would be that particular person, okay? But they are the person that's going to turn into either, number two, the executor or the administrator, and that's the person who ultimately is going to be able to close our deal with us, or our listing, sign it, or our double-end sale that we bring into them, okay? Then there's going to be heirs in the family. Now, in the early days, I used to worry about every heir. I used to send them all a letter, same letter. Today, I don't deal with the heirs until I need to, because it's the executor, the administrator, and anything that they do, they're going to deal with the heirs. The notice of proposed action is going to include the heirs. You don't have to worry about all that. So we're just dealing and reaching out to the administrator or the executor. There's going to be an estate attorney most of the time that's handling the affairs for the estate. They probably they're the ones that drew up the will for the deceased, or they're the attorney that inherited that will as the other attorney who originally retired, sold his practice. That estate attorney is going to be the one that kind of controls things, and most personal reps, executors, and administrators are not going to want to do anything without the blessings of the estate attorney, so you have to learn how to deal with that. And the way I do it really takes the attorney off the mound. They're really not in the picture until after we have a signed offer, and it's a beautiful thing. Because then we're controlling and we're telling them what we need to do through my title company. You're all going to learn that process, and that way you'll get a lot more deals, because if you're waiting for an attorney to approve your deal, they're probably not going to do it, especially if it's a wholesale deal. So you have to know how to get around that, so that's what we'll teach you. There's going to be, number 5, a probate referee. All probates have to be appraised at value at the time of death of the deceased. So they're going to do an appraisal on the home, and then they'll upgrade it for every year after and get the value of the property, because they're stepping up the value for tax purposes and things like that. And that doesn't mean that we have to use that appraisal in our purchase agreement, because they're usually wrong. The probate referee is usually a CPA. They don't get paid, much money to do these. They do what's called a drive-by or a windshield appraisal. For all you veterans on here tonight, that's where they just drive by the house, snatch a picture. It's probably someone else doing it for them, and they get a comp service and put comps together, and they kind of just give an average of the neighborhood. And most of the time, those numbers are high. And I think they're high because of the 90% rule that says the estates can sell a property for no less than 90% of the value. These appraisals probably feel they have a 10% buffer, and so long as they're somewhere around the right number, they'll be okay. But I've had to have many of them changed over the years, and you can change them. When I get to that part of the course, we will discuss how to do that. Okay? Now, for my diamond farming probate real estate side, my system, there's also a few other key people, and that's your escrow title people. Okay, I have key people that have worked with me. I work with 2 title companies exclusively, Old Republic and North American here in the Bay Area. Old Republic, the vice president of escrow, the gal, has been with me for 10 years. That's Becca Rollins. And for North American, Sue Smith, vice president there of escrow, has been with me for 30 years and has done my probates for over 20 years. Okay? They are dialed in to what I do, and we have a routine. So all of my students will have access to them. Of course, I don't want you calling them and asking them probate questions. You call them when you're ready to open up an escrow, and they're going to help you on the title escrow side. Okay? And they'll love to do business with you. And then we have a diamond farming attorney that works with my students. Now, we had the pleasure of Ron Hartley's his name. He's out of San Diego. And he's also a diamond farming student that is interested in buying and selling probates. And we've been talking over the year, and he is now the diamond farming probate student attorney. And when we have a need, he will interfere for us in either a letter or writing a letter to the attorney and smooth over any bumps. So the way I do this, I come from a position of power. All cash. I got title companies dictating what I want done, and I got attorneys that I'll refer to if the estate attorney has any questions. I'll have my attorney call him. That's a power position, folks. I do it for a reason, so I'm not getting jacked around by the estate attorney like I did in the beginning years, okay? All right? Okay, so I got a question. The first question is, how do we look for companies that might have some expertise in probate? So I assume, Walt, you're asking for title companies, okay? So it's very easy. You pick up your phone and you call your local title company where you're going to be doing business. And when they pick up, it'll be a receptionist. You say, hey, this is Walt. Hi. I'm going to be doing some real estate here in the area, and I want to establish an escrow officer. I need to know who in the company has done the most probate real estate, because that's what I do. And they're going to give you somebody. If they don't have anybody that's done probate, then call another company, okay? Now, if you're in my area, here in the Bay Area, you're going to be able to use Becca and Sue, and I'll set that up, okay? All right? So, and also down in SoCal, I have a diamond farming student. His name is Derek Ruiz, and he'll help you get established and point out some title companies for you guys. And then you diamond farming students that might be out of the area, and you have a question for Rod, he'll take your call, but he might have to do a little research in your area to see what's going on. And we're doing one right now. I had a brand new probate. I was selling it to my investor, great price. It's a short sale, no equity. We're buying it for $500 upside to $750. And I had a power of attorney with the daughter. The mother was on her last, few days. We were trying to get everything in escrow accepted, because if you do that with a power of attorney that has the real estate caption in it that they can do, that even though the mother passed, which she did Thursday, that deal is still good. We move forward. But she passed, and we weren't fully accepted yet, so now I'm in probate. There's no money. So Rod's going to be working on this deal with me. We're pushing the upfront fees back, and he'll get paid out of the short sale. If not, the investor will pay him, okay? Derek, for Derek Ruiz, go to Derek.Ruiz at exprealty.com, okay? And if you need help in SoCal, now he's in SoCal, somewhere in the beach area, I forget where he's at, what beach he is. And he's done a lot of, Gary's going to put his email on the screen for you, or on the chat box for you. And contact him, but, respect his privacy. Just send him an email and say, hey, you're Gary D's probate student, and Gary mentioned, you're in SoCal, and I'm going to be doing probate. I'm an investor, and I would love to start sending you the leads that I can't buy, and love to work with you, maybe even have you represent me down there. And we've already had this conversation, and he will. Now, he's busy. He does a lot of business. He does apartment buildings and things like that, and he does probates, okay? So talk to him, identify who you are, and then if he wants to give you your phone numbers and tell you how he operates, you'll go from there, okay? And then, so basically, we have everything we need right now, and you want to do the same. You want to get, if you're an investor only, you want to get a probate agent with you. If you have an agent you've been working with for years, and you got a good rapport, and then let's get them trained on probates. We'll get them in here, get them on the system, get them trained, and they'll be your guy or girl, whatever. And if you're an agent on there, you just want to keep going what you're doing, what you paid for, of course, and learn all this stuff and take the continuing education. And when you have questions, send them to us. When you need help, call me. And I think we're going to be coming down to SoCal the first of next year, and we're going to be doing a 2-day event like we just had this week. I'm not sure what month yet, but, we're thinking somewhere possibly around February, and we'll be doing this again. It's going to be either SoCal or San Diego. I'm not sure yet. So we're going to try to visit SoCal, San Diego twice a year, and as we do it up here twice a year, okay? All right? So and we'll keep you informed with that. Now that you're a diamond farming student, any announcements that go out, you all get an email blast from it. You can also go to the diamondfarm.com website, and everything is usually updated there under events and stuff like that. Okay? All right, so next page. We're going to be at Probate Real Estate myths, okay? Now, this pertains to what most people I've found over the years know about probate real estate, or what they think they know, or what they've been told in their real estate offices or around the coffee table with their investor friends about probate. Most of them feel that, everything has to be court approved. And really, that's a true statement as far as court confirmation probates are. If you're an agent, you're going to get a listing. It's going to have to be sent to the court. They have to approve it, and they're going to give you a maximum of 90 days. And if you go over that, then you have to go back to court and get an extension. That's the greatest way to work, but that's a statement that is true, but people think that's with everything with probate, and that's the myth. It's not. Under the IAEA, we take a listing just like we normally would, okay? Number two, that there's a 10% deposit, okay? Now, this is a myth again. Now, it's true as far as court confirmation this process is. If you make an offer, you got to put up 10%. But it's a myth that if you use the independent administrations, which 80% of the deals go through today in 2014, then it's never going to come into play. We're putting deposits up just like normal people do in a regular deal, okay? And also, as I mentioned, those 10% deposits, they scare away FHVA buyers or 10% down buyers. They can't put the full 10% up. So what happens is the estate loses 70% of the buyers that probably would have bought their property if it's in the lower range, the entry level, okay? And then number four, as is purchase. You got to buy as is. Not good. You can't get any work done or whatever. That is not true. You can actually get work done, but how it really works is when you do your due diligence, when you're in a probate, and we come back and we show all the reports. Just had one. I did a cheapy Oakland house. We went up against 7 agents or 7 people that knew about it. Happened to be a listing agent, was my diamond farming student. He told me there were 6 offers on the table. We came in, we got it at the high price of $155. Wow. And then we knew we wanted that. There's a whole more to this story, but I'm not going to go into that because we were on this before the listing. But anyway, we got it at $155. We did our due diligence, and when we were finished with the due diligence and showed all the reports, including the contractor's bid to rehab, we were able to get the property for $110. We got a $45,000 reduction and closed it a week later. I didn't even go back to the other offers because how we explain this to them is all of those investors are going to see these same numbers, so they're probably not going to want to pay you either. We're ready to close in 5 days, all cash. That's what we did, okay? So as is, yeah, you might buy it as is without work actually being done, but it won't reflect in the price that you bought it with all that work in there. We adjusted the price. And the way we do this, for every dollar of reduction we get for work, we know we're saving 30 cents because we get the work done for about 70 cents on the dollar with our contractor crews. So on a $10,000 work order, if we got the $10,000 paid by the estate or a price reduction, which is usually the case, we just made $3 grand because it's only going to cost us $7. Okay, see how that works? You got to wait 6 weeks for court confirmation. Well, under the old school process, yes. Once the offer is accepted, they have to petition the court to get on the court calendar, and it's going to take 6 to 8 weeks. Your deposit of 10% is sitting in escrow. And then what happens is if you go to court and you're overbid and you don't get it, well, you went through all that. You might have did some due diligence. You paid for reports. Your money sat there collecting no interest, and you didn't get the property. Not the greatest deal. And your agent didn't get paid. So that's pretty much the reason most people have stayed away for probate most of these years. But the same reason, I have to chuckle because since 1987, folks, okay, that's 87. That is 27 years ago, this law changed. And what I'm doing today, you could do then. So it's just knowledge. It's just a matter of having the knowledge and then applying it, okay? Because that Independent Administration Act changed everything in 1987, and that's the act that we buy and sell under. We call it the IAEA, and that's the Independent Administration of Estates Act. And if you turn the page, well, let's wait a minute. Let's talk about this one. And then we're going to go to the code a little bit more. So full authority or limited authority, what does that mean? You're going to hear this come up a lot in the petition for probate where we start with all our gathering, all of our information. It's going to be a box check, full authority or limited. All you need to know is full authority lets us do whatever we want with the property, whatever agreement we can make with the estate. Because we're taking it out of the courts. The executor or administrator has full authority to do what they want. Limited authority means there's certain things they can't do without going to court, and one of those items is sell the property. So we'd have to go to court, do the court overbid. But what a lot of people don't know, with limited authority, you can actually petition the court and change that to full authority. As long as there's nobody contesting in the family, you can get that, but you have to understand how to talk to the PR or the executor or the administrator and get them to agree to that. And there's ways to do it, and it comes over time. You're not going to learn all this and do everything on your first deal. You're still going to have a learning curve, and you may have to call me, or if you're down south, call Derek, and we help you through this, and eventually you're going to be like me. You've touched on just about everything that can happen, and now it's just repeating the process. Okay? All right. So all you need to know is with full authority, we can get it out of court. Okay? I'm not going to spend too much time in this because that's just talking about the full authority. If you go to the probate code, next page, and I circled this. This is the page that tells you the fee scale for the attorney. Okay, is everybody there? Anybody not there? Post it so I can see it. Probate code says section 10810-10814. And what this talks about is how the fees are based for the estate attorney. Okay? And if you go to the next one, and this is the crazy one, and this is a tip I want you guys to remember. The fees are without reference to the encumbrances or other obligations on the estate property. So what that means is if the property was worth $500 and they owed $400, their fees are based on the $500. So they go the first $4 of the first 100, 3% of the next 100, and 2% of the next 300,000. Huge fee. But if they sold that house during the probate, before final distribution, and out of that 100 grand equity, they netted 70 grand in their pocket after sales costs and whatever, then that 70 grand is what they're based their fees on, and they're going to pay less fees. Okay? Attorney won't like it, but that's a service you could talk to your client about and help save them money. Most agents don't understand that. Okay? All right. And if you go to the next page, you're going to see the California Probate Code, Independent Administrations Act. I'm not really going to go through this. I did not go through this weekend. I just told everybody this is a courtesy for you. But go ahead and just move forward 3 pages, and you should be at Probate Code Section 10500-10503. And this is just where I marked it. 10501 talks about what they can do with full authority. And you see down the bottom, number 1 is the sale of real estate. Okay? All right? I don't want you to get bogged up in this because you don't need to know this whole code. All you have to know is this is the code that gets the property out of the probate process. And on my addendum, when we write our offer, we're going to go through the complete offer in a different session. You're going to see the wording I use to do so. And you're going to be looking good. All right? So I want you guys to keep moving forward through the code, and then you're going to come to a page that says 3 documents needed by title company to close the probate sale. I'll wait a minute or so. So if you're not there, if you don't see that, let me know. Okay, so what this is, these are the items that you have to have when you're selling a probate through the Independent Administrations Act and you're pulling it out of court. You want to close it in 35 days, not wait for the probate to close. This is what your title company is going to need. Now, if they ask for more than this, that is your title company's personal overlay of what they want. And I'm telling you, find another title company. Old Republic only asks for this. North American only asks for this. Okay? Number 1, letters of testamentary. Now, if you go to the next page, here's a copy of the letters of testamentary. And all I want you to look at is where the first circle is there under letters. You see where the box is marked executor, or the other box would be administrator. Okay? So in this case, it's the executor. And go to the next box, number 3, that circle. It's checked. The personal rep is authorized to administer the estate under the Independent Administrations of Estates Act with full authority. Bingo. We're done. We're going to chase to the finish line in 35 days, assuming that you get a signature and they're ready to go. Okay, but that's the document. More importantly, that the title company is going to ask for it, because they got to have this in their closing statements, because this gives the executor the power to sign a grant deed, which is not in her name right now. The title of the house is not in her name, most likely. Sometimes it could be a spouse or whatever, and they're going to file an affidavit of death, and they're going to get, community property here in California is going to go over to the other side, but you still need the letters of testamentary to do that if they're going through probate. Okay, if it says with full authority, it says with limited authority, the box underneath full authority, then that tells us that we're going to have to go to court to get our sale approved and go through all those old myths and garbage, or we're going to have to convince the administrator or the executor to petition the court for full authority. Okay? And then the estate attorney will handle that. Let's go back a page to the second item. Second item is a notice of proposed action. Now what this is the action that is the estate attorney will prepare when you're going through the Independent Administrations Act. And this is the notice that goes to the heirs that have any interest in the real estate of the property that the executor or administrator is selling. And this notice points out the terms of the sale, that the executor is selling the property for X amount of dollars on these terms. And what this basically says is they have 15 days to contest the sale and say they don't want it and get it back to the attorney's office. They give them another 5 days for mailing. So if they signed it on the 15th and put it in the mail, it took another few days to get there, it's still a 20-day process is okay. So if anybody contests, your deal is done right there under the IAEA. Now it's got to move to the court confirmation. There has to be some, working between the family members. Now, how often does this come up? In my 25 plus years, I had it happen once. And that was because the children of the estate, the mother passed, the stepfather was the executor. They thought the stepfather was in cahoots with the estate attorney. There was no equity. It was a short sale. I worked on this thing 18 months to get this done. And finally, I had to sit with the children and then find out what the problem was. And the problem was that they thought the stepfather and the attorney was in cahoots. And there was a $10,000 executor fee that the executor was going to get. And they felt they didn't want to sign it because they didn't want him to have the money. And by rights, he was giving them the $10,000. So we straightened it all out and we closed. But the notice of proposed action is that form that will go out, and the title company will need to have that. Okay? So let's go back again a couple pages, and you'll see right after letters of testamentary, you're going to see the notice of proposed action. And this is one that we did, and it just goes through and talks about everything. All right? There's actually another part of this that we didn't need. It's just a signature page. And if this comes back, and what happens in reality, everyone, is the executor or the PR has talked to everybody already, and they already know the terms of the sale. You guys hear me okay? Am I off? I heard a little noise in my earpiece. I want to make sure you hear me okay. Okay, thanks, Walt. So what happens is the heirs have already talked with the executor or administrator because they're not going to do anything until they talk to them all. So they're already in agreement on what we're doing 99% of the time. So then when the notice of proposed action is prepared, they've already discussed it, so it's not an issue. Okay? Sometimes you can get it waived. Attorneys don't like to do that, but there is a form that you can get it waived. So if you had a cash deal that you wanted to close in 10 days instead of 35 days, you could do it if everybody was on board. Or let's say it was just the one party, the one heir or a sister, and she just signed a waiver, so you'd have to waste that time. But normally what happens is more than, one or two people involved, and you want to get this done. It's kind of the insurance policy. We use this for the executor or administrator, that when they're afraid to sign the offer because if the family thinks they sold it too cheap, I use this to say they're all going to be able to see all the terms of the sale and agree to it, or we don't have a deal, and just kind of, smooth that over and we move forward, okay? And then go back to our checklist again. The last thing is a letter from the attorney. Now, it's not so much a letter anymore as just an email or a verbal from the estate attorney's office to the escrow officer that the estate taxes are in order, okay? And that's really all it is. So it's really the two documents, 1 and 2, and then some type of communication that this is okay. So those are the two documents, and then a verbal that we need in order to close, and then we're looking good, and your deal went through. Okay, so I want to open it up. We're basically through with the first couple sessions. I want to open it up for some final Q&As. Thursday night, 7 o'clock, we're going to come back here again for a couple hours. We're going to go through probate leads and whatever else I have in order. But right now, does anybody have any questions? And if you miss it tonight, come see you tomorrow when you're looking over your notes. Or if you, if you don't get answered tonight, just email me, okay? We'll make sure that you get them. So, Gary Jr. will handle everything. I assume it's all going to be the same. Getting to the Thursday night session that we're going to do will be 7 o'clock again. I'm sorry, we're on to 6 o'clock today, right? Yeah, 6 o'clock. The webinars are normally 7. So we'll go to 6 to 8 again and get through some more information. So I hope you've all enjoyed this tonight, and it gave you a little basics going. And remember, all we're doing with this course manual is getting your database on probate filled with info. You may not understand all of it yet, but as the deals come, it's going to start unfolding to you. And oh, that's what Gary meant about that, or you call me or whatever, okay? So I don't see any other questions. So it sounds like to me that I just did a fantastic job. Pat on the back over here. And I explained everything thorough, and you don't need any other questions. Oh, look at that. I did. Well, thank you all. Okay, guys, I know for some of you out of area, out of the